So yeah, those two prayers in combination proved to be effective. Otsu cuts him down, and they both escape, so they're now both fugitives. Otsu reunites, I think, with Takuan, and then Takuzo gets captured again by Takuan. They're going to send him off to a castle for another form of punishment. This is a place where he is almost incapable of escaping.
What should we do with him? I think it would be best to place the prisoner in what shall we say, straightened circumstances for a while. And how do you propose to do that? I believe you have somewhere in this castle a closed room, one long rumored to be haunted. Yes, I do. The servants refused to enter it, and my retainers avoid it consistently, so it went unused. I now leave it as it is, since there is no reason to open it again. But don't you think it's beneath the dignity of one of the strongest warriors in the Tokugawa realm, you, Akita Terumasa, to have a room in your castle where a light never shines? I never thought of it that way. Well, people think of things like that. It's a reflection on your authority and prestige. I say we put a light in there. If you'll let me make use of that chamber, I'll keep Takuzo there until I am ready to pardon him. He's had enough of living in total darkness. You hear that, don't you, Takuzo? There was not a peep from Takuzo, but Terumasa began laughing and said, "Fine."
He's going to a dungeon, and again, this book is just filled and packed with symbolism and all these little tidbits of advice. Takuan kind of foresees the potential of the room, right? So he's like, put a light in there. That light is Takuzo. All right, so here we go.
It was always pitch dark high in the dungeon where the haunted room was located. There was no calendar here, no spring, no fall, no sound of everyday life. There was only one small lamp lighting a pale and shallow-cheeked Takuzo. The topography section of Sun Tzu's Art of War lay open on the low table before him. Sun Tzu said, "Among topographical features, there are those that are passable. There are those that suspend. There are those that confine. There are those that are steep. There are those that are distant." Whenever he came to a passage that particularly appealed to him, like this one, he would read it out loud over and over like a chant. He who knows the art of the warrior is not confused in his movements. He acts and is not confined. Therefore, Sun Tzu said, "He who knows himself and knows his enemy wins out without danger. He who knows the heavens and the earth wins out over all." When his eyes blurred from fatigue, he rinsed them with cold water from a small bowl he kept beside him. If the oil ran low and the lamp wick sputtered, he simply put it out. Around the table was a mountain of books, some in Japanese, some in Chinese, book on Zen, volumes on the history of Japan. Takuzo was virtually buried in these scholarly tomes. They had all been borrowed from Lord Akita's collection. When Takuan had sentenced him to confinement, he had said, "You may read as much as you want." A famous priest of ancient times once said, "I become immersed in the sacred scriptures and read thousands of volumes. When I come away, I find that my heart sees more than before." Think of this room as your mother's womb and prepare to be born anew. If you look at it only with your eyes, you will see nothing more than an unlit, closed cell. But look again, more closely. Look with your mind and think. This room can be a wellspring of enlightenment, the same fountain of knowledge found and enriched by sages in the past. It is up to you to decide whether this room is to be a chamber of darkness or one of light. Takuzo had long since stopped counting the days. When it was cold, it was winter. When hot, summer. He knew little more than that. The air remained the same, dank and musty, and the seasons had no bearing on his life. He was almost positive, however, that the next time the swallows came to nest in the dungeons boarded over gun slots, it would be the spring of his 3rd year in the womb. "I'll be 21 years old," he said to himself, seized by remorse. He groaned as if in mourning. And what have I done in those 21 years? Sometimes the memory of his early years pressed in on him, unrelenting, engulfing him in grief. He would wail and moan, flail and kick, and sometimes sob like a baby. Whole days were swallowed up in agony, which, once it subsided, left him spent and lifeless, hair disheveled and heart torn. Finally, one day, he heard the swallows returning to the dungeon's eaves. Once again, spring had flown from across the seas. Not long after its arrival, a voice now sounding strange, almost painful to the ears, inquired, "Takuzo, are you well?" The familiar head of Takuan appeared at the top of the stairs. Startled and much too deeply moved to utter a sound, Takuzo grabbed hold of the monk's kimono sleeve and pulled him into the room. The servants who brought him food had never once spoken a word. He was overjoyed to hear another human's voice, especially this one. "I've just returned from a journey," said Takuan. "You're in your 3rd year here now, and I've decided after gestating this long, you must be pretty well formed. I am grateful for your goodness, Takuan. I understand now what you've done. How can I ever thank you?" "Thank me?" Takuan said incredulously. Then he laughed. "Even though you've had no one to converse with but yourself, you've actually learned to speak like a human being. Good. Today you will leave this place. And as you do so, hug your hard-earned enlightenment to your bosom. You're gonna need it when you go forth into the world to join your fellow men."
All right, so they let him go, and they bring him up to the Lord, and they have a quick conversation. Takuzo basically tells him he's gonna want to wander around Japan for a while, learning the way of the sword. And here is their response. And I think it's perfect.
Takuzo smiled silently. "I want to wander about on my own for a while." "I see," the Lord replied, turning to Takuan. "See that he receives money and suitable clothing," he commanded. Takuan bowed. "Let me thank you for your kindness to the boy." "Takuan," Akira laughed, "this is the first time you've ever thanked me twice for anything." "I suppose that's true," Takuan grinned. "It won't happen again." "It's all right for him to roam about while he's still young," said Taramasa. "But now that he's going out on his own, reborn, as you put it, he should have a new name. Let it be Miyamoto, so that he never forgets his birthplace. From now on, Takuzo, call yourself Miyamoto." Takuzo's hands went automatically to the floor, palms down. He bowed deep and long. "Yes, sir, I will do that." "You should change your first name too," Takuan interjected. "Why not read the Chinese characters of your name as Musashi instead of Takuzo? You can keep writing your name the same as before. It's only fitting that everything should begin anew on this day of your rebirth." Taramasa, who was by this time in a very good mood, nodded his approval enthusiastically. "Miyamoto Musashi. It's a good name, a very good name. We should drink to it." The following day, they both left the castle. Musashi was taking his first steps into a new life, a life of discipline and training in the martial arts. During his 3-year incarceration, he had resolved to master the art of war.
As this wraps up here, you got to remember that this is 1/10 of the length of this book. So I haven't even scratched the surface here of the book. It's a remarkable book. I'll leave you guys with this last quote.
"Surely you do want to see her, if only for a few minutes." "No, I don't think so. I did die, Takuan, and I do feel reborn. I don't think that now is the time to return to the past. What I have to do is take a resolute step forward into the future. I've barely found the way along which I have to travel. When I've made some progress towards the knowledge and the self-perfection I'm seeking, perhaps I'll take the time to relax and look back. Not now." "I see. I find it hard to put into words, but I hope you understand anyway." "I do. I'm glad to see you're as serious about your goals as you are. Keep following your own judgment. I'll say goodbye now, but someday, if I don't get myself killed along the way, we'll meet again. Yes, yes. If we have a chance to meet, let's by all means do so. Takuan turned, took a step, and then halted. Oh yes, I suppose I should warn you that Osugi and Uncle Gong left Miyamoto in search of you and Otsu 3 years ago. They resolved never to return until they'd taken the revenge, and old as they are, they're still trying to track you down. They may cause some inconvenience, but I don't think they can make any real trouble. Don't take them too seriously. Oh yes, and then there's Okai Tanzimon. I don't suppose you ever knew his name, but he was in charge of the search for you. Perhaps he had nothing to do with anything you or I said, but that splendid samurai managed to disgrace himself, with the result that he's been dismissed permanently from Lord Akitia's service. He's no doubt wandering about too. Takuan grew grave. Musashi, your path won't be an easy one. Be careful as you make your way along it. I'll do my best. Musashi smiled. Well, I guess that's everything. I'll be on my way. Takuan turned and walked westward. He did not look back. Keep well, Musashi called after him. He stood at the crossroads, watching the monk's form recede until it was out of sight. Then once again, alone, he started to walk towards the east.